Hey guys, so we ran out of time last time and didn't quite get to decimal parts of a number. I told you guys right at the very end there that it was exactly the same as the fractional part of a number, same formula, except instead of having f times our whole number equals the part, we're going to say the decimal times the whole number equals the part. And it should make sense to you that we can swap out the fraction with the decimal because for every fraction there is a decimal version of it, right? A decimal representation of that number. We know that 1/2 equals 0.5. We know that 3/4 equals 0.75. And you should know how to find the fraction of a decimal or vice versa, right? To see that 1/2 equals 0.5, we would say 2 divided into 1, and we would put a decimal there so we could divide it into it, put a 0 there, and we would say 2 goes into this 5 times, and so we get 0, right? So 0.5 is the decimal representation of 1 divided by 2. And then likewise, we could say 0.5 is the same as 5 divided by 10, since the 5 here is in the tenths place. So 5 divided by 10 reduces down to 1/2. So we can go back and forth between fractions and decimals. And so for that reason, we can use the same exact formula that we use when we're finding the fractional part. We just use the decimal instead of the fraction. Okay, so we're going to use this formula for each of the examples in the book. And this is example 30.1, and it says 0.32 of what number is 24.32. All right, so how do we figure that out? Well, we just plug in the parts of our equation up here that we have, right? We have the decimal part, which is 0.32, times, now what number in this case is our whole number that we're trying to find some part of. So 0.32 of what number is 24.32. Okay, so 24.32 in our case is the part. So this is going to be 24.32. I told you in class that whenever you see the is, think of that as the part that comes after the equal sign. And when you see the of, whatever comes after that is going to be our whole number. Okay, so this is our formula then. When we just write it like we would any other algebraic equation with a variable in it, it's this. And we know how to solve a simple algebraic equation like that. We just divide both sides by 32, right? 0.32, sorry. So if I divide by that, then W is going to be equal to 76, it turns out, when we plug that in our calculator. Okay, so that's how you find the answer to example 30.1. Example 30.2 is, for each of these examples here, they just give us the same, again, we'll use the same equation, they just give us different values, and we have to find, we'll basically have a variable for a different part of the equation each time. So for the next one, it says, what decimal part of 42 is 26.04? So we're trying to find the decimal part. So what's unknown to us here is the D. So what decimal part of 42, so D times 42, is or equals 26.04. All right. So this is the way our equation looks this time. Well, again, we're going to remove this multiplication symbol and just write it as we normally would write a number times a variable. We always put the number first, that's our coefficient, in front of our variable, and followed by the variable. And so that equals 26.04. And to solve for the variable, which in this case is D, we just divide both sides by 42, right? And so our 42's cancel out here. D is going to equal 26.04 divided by 42, which is 0.62. So that would be our decimal part for this particular problem. And then last of all, last example, same equation. We've got some different values this time. So we're asked to find 0.42 of 86 is what number? So they've given us the decimal part. So D is going to be 0.42 of 86. So this time they give us the whole part. 0.42 times 86 equals some unknown number. So that's going to be our P. So we're trying to find P this time. This is actually the simplest one of all, right? All we have to do is type into our calculator 0.42 times 86. And when we do that, we get that P is going to be equal to 36.12. And that's it. Super simple. Like I said, if you could do the fractional parts, you can do the decimal part. The equation is basically the same for both. Reach out if you have any questions, and I hope you guys have a good week.